Okay, this is the 3.3 activity. It actually is going to cover 3.2 and 3.3 measures of center and measures of variation, but we will also apply this to grading on a curve. So from the D2L page, you should open, I think it's called Data for 3 activity hypothetical test scores. So I'm assuming we have a class of 28 people, so it's not our class, and that we took a test and these were the test grades. So you can open this, and then in the requirements I say create or copy from the file I posted a table showing the grades into 2 different sheets. So I just have one sheet in this workbook, so we'll have to add a sheet. And then we can go and just copy this data and then paste it into, oh, I don't know why it pasted there. If you paste it in some weird place, you can just hit undo. Put it up here, paste. Okay. Name the first sheet standard grading system and the second sheet grading on a curve. Well, I'm already on sheet 2, so I'll just do this one first. So double click grading on a curve, and then the first sheet standard grading system. On each sheet, use the average command to compute the class average. I also want us to label it. So let's type average, and then here I'll just type equals average, and then just highlight all of the test scores, hypothetical test scores. Okay, and let's just do 1 decimal place. So under number, decrease decimal. And I think we can just probably copy and paste this whole thing into the, okay, so this ref, we'll have to just highlight that if that happened to you, and then highlight the data again here. Okay, 69.4. Use the appropriate command to calculate the standard deviation for the grades. So I'm saying this is everybody in the class. So I didn't just take a sample of some of the people in the class. I'm using everybody in the class. Okay, so let's label the standard deviation. So STDEV, standard deviation, and then equals STDEV, and then we're doing population. So dot P parentheses, and then we'll highlight the data. Okay, and then if you want, you can copy and paste. We're probably going to run into the same issue as we did before, but we'll have at least the label and the start of the command there. Yeah, so let's just highlight this and then highlight data. Okay. Oh, let's change those also to 1 decimal place. So number, there we go. And then this might work if you click on this and do Control Y. It says just repeat your last step, which was, yeah, to change it to 1 decimal place. Okay, use the mode to calculate the mode grade. We'll just do mode and median on the first page. The second page, we need the average and standard deviation. So mode, tab, and then just equals mode, and then highlight the data. Okay, 92. So that means there were more 92s than any other score in the class. And then median equals median, parentheses, and then highlight the data. $73.75. Okay, And then create a frequency distribution for the grade distribution under the standard grading system and include a histogram. Okay, so we remember if we're going to do a histogram, we need to give the upper class limits. And so the highest grade for an A on this particular test, say there was no extra credit, would be a 100. And so let's type grade and then frequency. Okay, so the upper class limit, actually let's move this over. So I'm highlighting, Control C to copy, and then just go to where it says frequency and do Control C paste. And then for grade, let's type letter grade. And let's just make that a little bit wider. Okay. And so here we can type A, B, C, D, F. Oops. Let's center these as well. And now we'll give the upper class limits. So the upper class limit for an A is 100. For a B, we'll just say 89.9. And then for a C would be 79.9. And then a D would be 69.9. And then an F would be 59.9. Okay. And then, so the frequency, actually Excel is going to do that for us. I guess we can leave that there. Okay, so we'll go to, now if you haven't done an activity yet where you use the data analysis feature, this top line has all these different tabs. Click on data. If you don't have data analysis here, I'm going to quickly walk through the steps if you already have it. Sorry, maybe you can fast forward a little bit. So you go to File, Options, Add-ins. Make sure, it might be down here, but one of the things that say Analysis Tool Pack are highlighted. It doesn't matter which one. And then click on this Go. And just make sure at least one of these is checked. It doesn't matter which one. You click OK, and then it'll put it here in this Data tab. It'll put it over on the right. So we'll click on Data Analysis. Click on Histogram. Our input range, that's our grades. So we want to highlight our grades. Bin range, that's where we want to click, highlight the upper class limits. Output range, so it kind of disappears and comes back, and then it highlights the input again. We don't want to change the input, so put your cursor here, and then let's just click somewhere over here, like I-15. It doesn't have to be exactly there, but you just want to make sure it's not going to cover up any of your other data. And then we also want the chart. Okay. And then click OK. Okay, so here is our, it's not quite a histogram because remember the bars are supposed to touch. I'm just going to delete this frequency label. So I right-clicked on it, and then I'm just hitting delete. And remember to eliminate the gaps, you click, so put your cursor on one of the bars, and I think we right-click, yep, Format Data Series, and then over here, gap width, eliminate. So just pull that down to 0, and then the last thing to do is right-click again, and then on outline, choose something that is going to show up. I don't care what color you use as long as we can see the spaces between the bars. So notice that in this frequency table, they just do it smallest to largest. So in our class, let's go ahead and center everything here in this table. So I have to click back on Home, Center. So there were 5 A's, 6 B's, 4 C's, 4 D's, 9 F's. So in a situation like that, it's not unusual for a class to say, well, are you going to curve the test? If there were 9 F's, are you going to curve it? And so we're going to go through then on the next page what the grade distribution would look like if I were to grade on a curve, which is to make it look more like a bell-shaped distribution. This is definitely not, it doesn't have a normal distribution. It doesn't start low, go high, and then go back to a low value with symmetry. And you can tell from both the table and the graph that it's not even close to being a normal shape. Okay, so we don't need this anymore. And let's check. I think we've done everything for the first page. Create a frequency distribution, include a histogram. Okay, so yep, now we're on the grading on a curve sheet. So use the empirical rule to calculate cutoffs for A's, B's, C's, etc. using a bell curve distribution. And your worksheet should use Excel formulas to calculate the new cutoffs. So create a frequency distribution. Okay, so first let's worry about what the new cutoffs are. So I'm going to just bring up a graph here. Okay, so the idea behind it is we're going to have this graph, and most of the stuff is in the middle, right? The number right in the middle should be the average, okay? And then if we go down 1 standard deviation and up 1 standard deviation, this should get like 68% of the data. These should all be C's. So this right here, this is our average. So right in the middle is the average. And then this is the average plus 1, actually, the average plus 1 SD. And then this one down here would be the average, oops, minus 1 SD. Okay. And then we go out again. So I go here, here, another standard deviation, and then here are the D's, here are the B's, and then the A's are all the way at the top, of course, and the F's are at the bottom. So this cutoff right here, that would be the average minus 2 SDs, right? The average is right in the middle, and I've gone down 1, 2. And then this cutoff right here between B's and A's, that's the average plus 2 SDs. Right, because here's the average and we've gone up 1, 2. So that's going to be the bottom of the A's and the top of the B's. Okay, so first on our sheet, we're going to figure out what's the range for each of the letter grades. So the range for C's. Then we'll worry about defining the upper endpoints for our frequency distribution. And let's start with the C's first. C's go from, and let's just make that a little bit wider so it fits. Okay, so the average is in the middle. So the bottom limit for C and type equals the average minus 1 standard deviation. So they go from 49.3 to, let's center that, so it's not right next to the number. That's the low endpoint for C's, and then the high endpoint for C's would be the average plus 1 standard deviation. So equals the average plus 1 standard deviation. Okay, and now let's say where the B's go. So B's go from, well, if this is the top for C, then that's at the bottom for B, right? So, and I'm just going to use the exact same number, 89.5. Actually, I mean, that 89.5 couldn't be both a B or a C, but we're not going to worry too much about that just yet. So 89.5 to, and then the top B is the average plus 2 standard deviations. So equals the average plus 2 times. Remember, the times is the shift of the 8, the standard deviation. So the A's, they're 109.6 and up. So there's no like upper limit. So 109.6, and I'm just going to do plus. Okay. And then now we'll do the D's. Go from, okay, so the bottom D is the average minus 2 standard deviations. So equals the average minus 2 times the standard deviation. Okay. That's the bottom D. Oops. I want that centered. And then the top D would be the same as like the bottom C, right? Here's the top D. It's also where the C's start. So to 49.3. Okay, and then F's would just be anything below 29.2. And so I'm just going to type the less than, so it's the shift of the comma, less than 29.2. Okay. So now we can do our upper endpoints for creating the distribution in the histogram. And so let's see how we labeled it before. So letter grade, grade, we'll worry about the frequency later. So I'm just going to copy this table from the first page, and then we'll modify the upper endpoint. So the upper endpoint for A's, it really doesn't matter because I'll just type in 120. It really doesn't matter because there's nothing over 100 anyway. So 120. The upper endpoint for B's is 109.6. The upper endpoint for C's is 89.5. The upper endpoint for D's is 49.3. And the upper endpoint for S is 29.2. Okay, and so now we'll do a histogram for that. Data, data analysis, histogram, and then the input range, that's what we want, B1 to, see it's already like highlighted it, B1 to B28. The bin range, looks like I've changed the bin range. I've gone down by like a row. So just highlight that and then highlight the data. The output range I-15 is perfectly fine. We want a chart and click on OK. Okay, and so now you see, yeah, the graph pretty much fits the bell curve. It starts low, it goes high, and then it decreases, and it's just missing this 1 grade here, but if there was a 1 over here, it would be, the graph would be almost perfectly symmetric. So click on frequency and hit backspace to get rid of that. Right click on a bar, format data series, no gap width, and then we can close this, and then we just want to put lines between the bars. So, oops, outline. Okay. And so now we can put in how many of each grade there were. So frequency. Oops, frequency. I'm just going to make this a little bit wider. Okay, and so there were no A's. There were 5 B's. There were 18 C's, 4 D's, and 1 F. And let's center these. So grading on a curve definitely helped those 9 people who had F's under the standard grading system, but it hurt the people at the top of the scale. So before, see, there were 5 A's and 6 B's. Now there are no A's and 5 B's. So all the people that had gotten A's now got either, well, they probably are now all of the 5 B's because they're still the highest grades. And all of the people who had gotten a B now have a C. So when people say, are you going to curve the exam? It only helps really if you're at the very bottom. It hurts you if you're closer to the top of the scale. And I think that is it for this. Let's look at the criteria. Yep, include a histogram. The one thing I was going to show you is if for some reason you can't get the data analysis tool pack installed, I'm going to show you another way to do it. So if you got it to work, you don't have to watch this, because the other way to do it, you're not going to get full credit, but at least you can finish the project. So if you weren't able to get the data analysis tool pack installed, then what you'll want to do is highlight all of the scores, and actually both columns A and B, person 1 and the score, whatever, the person number and the score. And then go to sort filter and do custom sort. We're going to sort by column B, and we will do largest to smallest. Okay, so then you can just, at least you have them sorted, so now you can count the number of A's. So A is 90 or above, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you'll just enter that for frequency. And then the number of B's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then C's and so on. And then for the grading on a curve, you would do all of these steps would be the same. It's just for getting the frequencies. So again, you would just want to sort the data, highlight it, sort and filter, custom sort, sort by column B, largest to smallest. And then you would just have to count how many grades are above 109.6, 0. How many grades are above 89.5? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next one is lower. So there are our 5 B's. So how many grades between 49.3 and 89.5? Well, it'd be here, and then you're going all the way down to this one. And so that's obviously going to be 18. And then between 29.2 and 49.3, yeah, these 4. So 29.2 on the low end, 49.3 on the upper end, and then below 29.2, there's only 1. Okay, and then you could create a bar chart. I guess we can see what it looks like. Insert this bar chart. What's this? Yeah, see, it only gives me 2 bars. It's not very nice. Let's look at our bar chart. Yeah, it's doing series 1 and series 2, but if you right click on horizontal axis category and do select data, we don't want series 1. We want that actually to be the label. So we're going to remove this from, like, I don't want any bars that are 120 units tall. So we're going to remove that. And then I'm going to click edit. And I'm going to click on these. Okay, so you see it does give us a graph that's, it put it in reverse order, right? Just like I entered it. So if you want to do a bar chart, you really should change the order of these so it does the correct order here. And you'll get pretty much the same graph as the histogram once you make that fix, okay? And then you could do the same thing on the first page. Okay, that's it.